And good afternoon to you. I'm Mitch McCoy here at KRK4 and Fox 16. We're continuing to follow breaking news out of Pine Bluff. We just learned a few moments ago that the student shot at Watson Chapel Junior High has died. You might recall the student was shot earlier today in between classes there in Pine Bluff at Watson Chapel Junior High when another student, according to police, a 15-year-old student, shot the other student. And this was happening right in between class transfers. And so we've learned that the 15-year-old student that was injured has died at Arkansas Children's Hospital just a few moments ago, this according to the Pine Bluff Police Department. And there is still a lot that we don't know about this shooting, but there is certainly details unfolding here, and they will continue to unfold throughout the afternoon. And stay with us as we continue to learn more. But I want to get to Dr. Howard Turney. He is a family therapist because there are so many people this afternoon, doctor, that are wondering, how am I going to talk with my kid about this? We heard from a parent earlier today who had said that talking with a student earlier today who was talking about thinking it was a door that was being slammed, but then realizing that it was gunshots. The police department, they don't know just yet how many students actually witnessed this shooting because it happened in between classrooms in the middle of that break. How do parents even start this kind of conversation?
You know, Mitch, this is a tragic story, and I think the parents have a huge responsibility here to start a conversation with their children and that let them know you're interested in them and that you want to know how they're coping. You can find times to talk to them when they're riding in the car with you, when they're getting ready for bed, or at mealtime, and you need to listen to their thoughts, and you want to know their point of view, and you don't want to interrupt them. You want to allow them to express their feelings and ideas and their understanding of the situation before you respond to them. And I would listen for misinformation or misperceptions that you might want to gently correct. You want to you express your opinion and ideas, and also let them know that it's okay for us to disagree about how we see the situation. You want to reinforce ideas of safety and security. You want to share what communities and schools are doing to make sure that they are safe and how they might provide resources for them to help them understand the situation. Keep the home a safe place. Children often find home their haven in a place where they feel safe and secure. You want to watch for signs of stress and for anxiety. If the child becomes overwhelmed, you want to talk to them about that and ask them if they need someone to talk to. And they can find a child and family therapist to work with. Take news breaks. You don't have to have the television or other sources of media on constantly. I think this just emphasizes how deep this tragedy runs. Monitor adult conversation. Adults may be in the next room discussing it, but children hear a lot of what parents say, and there's a possibility they could misinterpret what they hear. Check in often and monitor how they're coping. And the most important thing is to take care of yourself and your children and make sure that they're safe and secure.
Dr. Howard Turney joining us this afternoon, talking about how to have this difficult conversation with students tonight. This is going to be on the forefront of so many parents' minds, especially for other kids who are not affected by this. Maybe scrolling through Facebook it could pop up on their feed, or maybe on Snapchat or Instagram. Dr. Howard Turney joining us now to talk about this school shooting and what parents and families should be doing tonight. Doctor, what if people are watching and they say, well, I don't have a kid that goes to Watson Chapel. Should they also try and be a part of this conversation with their kids today?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Children hear things, and sometimes stories get changed over time, and facts and fiction. And it would be good for parents of children in this age group to check in just to make sure what their understanding of the events were.
And that obviously because they don't know what they've seen or heard throughout the day.
Exactly. And they don't know what they've seen or heard. And bad news travels fast.
How do you start the conversation? I mean, do you do it over dinner with everyone around, or do you do it maybe on the way home from school? How do you know when it's appropriate to have that conversation?
I think when the parent is calm is a good place to start. And you can do it maybe at bedtime or before the evening meal. And you just ask the children to talk about what happened at school today. What was your interpretation of that? And how do you think you're going to cope with that? I think we need to be straightforward with our children because they can be hurting in a situation like this.
And when do you know maybe you're pushing too much? I mean, would that just be a parent's instinct at that point?
I think so. I think that you don't want to inundate them with questions. You don't want to do an inquisition, but you do want to let them know that you are there to listen to them and to explain what you know about what happened and to make them feel safe and secure and alleviate their anxiety.
And you just kind of start that conversation by saying, well, what did you see, or what did you hear at school today? Or what about, these several hundred students, their families? When do you know, and I just immediately think of that student that was on live and talking about thinking that it was a loud door closing, and then saying that his biggest concern was leaving that classroom after a lockdown and wondering if he was going to be coming across a body. I mean, that has got to be in the minds of hundreds of students. How do those parents even begin to have that conversation? Some of them may have already started that conversation, but is it different for those parents that are truly affected right in the middle of this tragedy?
I think that, the parents need to pay attention to the level of emotionality that a child projects. And, I think that, all of these children are in the same boat, whether they knew the victim well or the perpetrator well, or they didn't know them at all. It's a part of their community. It's a part of all of the daily life of these school children. And so much of school is positive and uplifting and reinforcing, and this is just really thrown the school into a state of panic. And yes, I think that a child fearful of stepping over that person after they had been shot, I mean, we would really need to pay close attention to, their feelings and their fears about what happened.
Dr. Howard Turney joining us live here this afternoon on Facebook, and of course on all of our digital platforms, krk.com, fox16.com. Doc, I appreciate your time this afternoon, truly appreciate it. You've certainly given us and many parents something to think about tonight as we begin to have this difficult conversation with kids. And I think that sometimes we forget that these are all people. We think about just one person who was shot here, and we forget, and one person that was killed. But we also have to think and put into perspective that there are hundreds of victims to this. There really wasn't just one. There were hundreds of victims, and every kid in that school is a victim to this tragedy that unfolded at Watson Chapel Junior High today. While we know that one student has died from his injuries, a 15-year-old student, our hearts are breaking and we're thinking of their family. We also have to remember the hundreds of students that attend that school, and they are victims as well to this unfortunate, just tragic, senseless violence. Dr. Howard Turney, I appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitch.
Appreciate it. For folks just joining us here, we have been following this breaking news story throughout the afternoon. We have now learned of a student, that 15-year-old boy that was shot this morning. He has died, and the Pine Bluff Police Department just confirmed that a few moments ago as we learned that the 15-year-old suspect, the suspected gunman in this, is in custody right now. We will continue to follow this breaking news story throughout the day. We will have a live update beginning at 4 p.m. on KARK4. Of course, updates sent to your mobile phone if you download our mobile app. For now, I'm Mitch McCoy. This has been breaking news from KARK.